Guy Ames is the chair, but I'm told that Mr. Byrd Bonner will be representing the committee. You should turn to your DCA to page 2190, calendar item 462. Byrd, what's before us?
Thank you, Bishop and Conference. Good afternoon.
Please be quiet and move to your seats while this is being presented. Go ahead, Byrd.
In Monday's Daily Christian Advocate edition, page 2190, calendar item 462. The petition number is 20374. Found in the Advanced Daily Christian Advocate on page 347. Bishop, I'll be presenting two calendar items that are consecutive in the Daily Christian Advocate. They are consecutive in the Advanced Daily Christian Advocate, found on the same page, and they seek to insert identical language in two consecutive subparagraphs of paragraph 16 of the Constitution.
Thank you for making that clear, Byrd. We will handle these separately because they are proposed constitutional amendments. But friends, I trust that after careful consideration of the first one, we will be able to expedite the consideration of the second one. Go ahead, Byrd.
Thank you. Calendar item 462 is the one that we are on, page 2190 of the Daily Christian Advocate. This calendar item seeks to add the language found in the middle of the first column on page 347 in the advanced edition of the Daily Christian Advocate. The language is unamended by the committee. The subcommittee considering this petition, both of these petitions, recommended adoption to the full committee unanimously. The conference's legislative committee unanimously recommends adoption to you. Calendar item 462 seeks to add the listed language, the listed sentence, to subparagraph 8 of paragraph 16 in our Constitution. Friends, we live in a vastly different day than the General Conference found itself in Fort Worth, Texas, USA, just 4 years ago. Those of us that have been following this General Conference, either here in Tampa or around the world, find it hard to believe that we could do it without Facebook, Twitter, and other social media options. Text messages on cell phones are the routine way to communicate not only within this assembly hall, but to the other side of the world. That is merely an example of the kind of technological change that our denomination finds it in, as well as our conferences and our local churches. Whether it deals with the business and news of the General Conference, or whether it deals with the programs of our annual conferences, the new church plants and starts, and the technology and support structures needed for those new ministries and new disciples. The petition before us, as well as the discussion in the subcommittee and the conference's legislative committee, indicates an extreme need for flexibility, for nimbleness in meeting the mission field where it is. The piece of legislation that I put before you that I'm presenting now does not authorize any body of the church to do anything. It gives the ability of General Conference to authorize actions to be taken to facilitate the connectional enterprises of the church to bodies of the church, as long as those bodies are accountable directly to the General Conference. Again, directly to the General Conference. The subcommittee, the conference's legislative committee, recommends unanimously that you adopt calendar item 462.
Thank you. This item is before you. It is open for your discussion and debate. I see an orange card at the far back. Yes, you just stood up. Would you please come all the way to microphone 7? We get better sound quality out of it, the secretary tells me.
Thank you, Bishop. My name is Charles Boyu from the Detroit Conference in the United States. I rise in opposition to this petition on the following grounds. Without this petition, the General Conference still has the ability at any session of the General Conference to authorize any agency of the church to do everything this petition is calling for. We have never, as a General Conference, been unable to do that. My understanding is that this petition originally was attached to the IoT report as another mechanism to enable the implementation of the IoT report, which has been rejected by the General Conference. Also, this petition is an effort to concentrate power unnecessarily was a plan to concentrate power into that central agency that no longer exists. I will caution the General Conference to retain unto itself all of the authority that it currently has, with the understanding that at this session, if there's any agency needing specific authorization to do anything in the interim between now and 2016, they may bring it to our attention. If they have none, then in 2016, if there's any agency wishing special authorization, bring it then. I am leery of giving General Conference authority to anybody other than the General Conference. And therefore, I rise to encourage you not to support this petition. It is unnecessary, and the General Conference can do what it is asking for without this petition.
Thank you. That's a speech against. Down front here, green card.
Andy Langford, Western North Carolina Annual Conference.
Microphone 5, thank you.
I speak in favor of this amendment. It did not arise from the IoT report. It came out of the Apportionment Study Committee authorized by General Conference that would be reported to both the Congressional Table and GCFNA. The recommendation comes because General Conference only sets directions and parameters and instructions once every 4 years. It is the perception of the Congressional Table and GCFNA is things change more quickly than every 4 years. According to this, it is a constitutional amendment that would have no effect for anything that happens before the year 2016. At that point, General Conference may delegate agencies or other groups to make some changes, but nothing would change in 2013, 2016. It was the position of the Apportionment Study Committee that to assume that there could be no changes in direction, no changes in budget, no changes in priority, except only once every 4 years, does not reflect current reality. And therefore, I speak in favor of the constitutional amendment.
Thank you. We need a speech against. In the back of this front section, yes, you. Move to microphone, please. Looks like microphone number 6.
Bishop Scott Campbell from the New England Conference. I speak in opposition to this constitutional amendment. I believe that it is very important, as my brother from Detroit said moments ago, that the General Conference maintain for itself full authority and power to direct the work of the church. For the General Conference to delegate to small, less representative bodies is a dangerous precedent, and we don't know where that will lead us. I urge you to vote against this dangerous amendment.
Thank you. You've had 2 speeches for and 2 speeches against. Over here to the far left. Microphone number 2.
Bishop J. Brim, Lay Delegate, Southwest Texas, USA. I rise to speak in favor of this amendment. I would point out to the body that it was proposed by the General Counsel on Finance and Administration and not by the IOT or CT.
Okay.
The significance of this particular provision arises out of our budget process. Our budget process begins in the middle of each quadrennium. Every agency comes to GCFA and begins to build a budget then, attempting to predict 6 years out how the last dollar will be raised and spent by our general church. Friends, I challenge everybody in this hall to consider whether anybody here could budget 6 years out with any significant hope of success. We must find a better way to do church while maintaining control through the processes that we have. As Mr. Bonner has pointed out, this amendment does nothing but free up the next General Conference to determine what the best way to budget our resources will be. I urge you to look to the future and allow our brothers and sisters who will come together in 2016 to have the freedom to look at a better way to budget our resources and expenses.
The person here, yes, or orange card, yes, you please. Move to a microphone, looks like number 10.
Dale Weatherspoon, California, Nevada Annual Conference. I rise in opposition. If this amendment isn't going to take effect until 2016, then I don't see the urgency in passing this now. Our Constitution is very clear that the authority to raise the money and direct those funds belongs to this body, the General Conference. The Book of Discipline gives the General Conference the responsibility to determine and provide for raising and distributing funds necessary for carrying on the work of the church. When we, as the General Conference, votes on budgets, every local church participates in that by sending delegates selected to our annual conferences. When our General Conference budget is passed, it gives clear direction and boundaries to our general church ministries. This then gives clear commitment to local churches on how their apportionments will be spent. To give over that responsibility to a small oversight board leaves huge flexibility and lack of clarity. If this newly created centralized agency acts in a manner that is not in the best interest of our churches and the denomination, there is no stopgap to stop those actions during a 4-year period. It gives away the denominational intentional responsibility of General Conference. Are we ready to give that responsibility away to a body that has no oversight over its actions? I'm not ready to do that. We should not be ready either to do that. We are a church of local churches, and their decision-making power should not be handed over to a central agency with no checks and balances to control that agency. Again, I vote in opposition of this.
We have now had 3 speeches for and 3 speeches against. We are moving to a vote, but I see a double-sided white card there on your right side of the aisle. Move to a microphone, please. Looks like microphone number 7.
Thank you, Bishop. Stephanie Deckard, Upper New York Annual Conference laity. I rise for clarity. My question is, how would this be implemented? Would these church units or bodies have to come directly to the General Conference and request to be empowered? Or through the support of this petition, are we already directly empowering one of these units or bodies? And if so, which would that be?
Thank you for the question. We'll invite the representative of the committee to answer.
We would not be authorizing any authority by the passing by this body, the General Conference, of this constitutional amendment. Instead, it would authorize a future General Conference to delegate such authority to a body. It could be limited, it could be broad, but it would be only in the decision of the a future General Conference, and it could only be a body that is accountable directly to that General Conference.
You're still at the microphone. Does that answer your question?
I just had a follow-up. How would those bodies directly request this of the General Conference? Would it be in form of a petition? How would they do that?
I think they could do it in form of a petition. I think it's also likely that in the process of a future General Conference, the General Conference could, by its own process, delegate an authority to a particular body. To answer one part of your question, I'm not aware, the subcommittee is not aware of any particular body or agency that is contemplated. We heard from staff from the General Council on Finance and Administration in the Legislative Committee. It is the bringer of this petition, the filer of this petition, and there was no indication of any particular body that would be requested or to which authority would be delegated.
I see a white card in the middle of the left section there. Yes? That's you. Move to a microphone, please. Microphone number 7.
Russ Graves, Laity, Florida Conference. I move we suspend the rules and move to a debate process of 2 for and 2 against.
This motion regards our procedure. It's in order. We will consider the procedural motion now before going back to the main motion. Is there a second to it? All right. Get out your keypads, please. The motion is to move to putting the question after 2 speeches for and 2 speeches against. Is this a point of order in the back? Come to microphone 8 and we'll try what you want to do. Tell me what you have in mind.
Lonnie Chafin, Northern Illinois Conference. I'm wondering if this motion is for only what's before us or for longer than that.
Would the maker of the motion please return to the microphone? Is this only on this matter or for the rest of General Conference?
For the rest of General Conference.
That is an amendment to the rules, would require a 2/3 suspension of the rules in order to implement it, but it's in order. Get out your keypads, please. If you would support this and move to a presumptive limit of 2 speeches for and 2 speeches against, vote 1 for yes. If you're opposed to this change in our rules, vote 2. Vote now. You have 5 seconds. The voting is closed. The secretary of the conference tells me you all are doing so well at this electronic voting that 5 seconds is all you really need. So we're trying to keep things moving along. You have not passed this. It requires 2/3, and you're at 65.6%. We're back on the main motion. We're back to our normal procedures of 3 speeches and 4 and 3 against. We have had that on this case, so we're now at procedural motions. I see a white card over here. Yes? Please, since you're raising a white card, start off after your name and conference telling me why you have come to the microphone.
Very well, Bishop. My name is Fred Brewington, New York Annual Conference, lay. I rise for a point of information.
Okay, go ahead.
My question is, as a practicing attorney, I also ask this question, whether or not the review of this particular resolution has been reviewed with regard to the IRS, potential implications under the IRS revenue rulings, and whether or not it's been reviewed from a legal standpoint to see if the abdication or the potential abdication of power to other organizations in any way would affect the IRS status or add additional liability to the General Conference, the church, or the lesser organization that is mentioned in the petition.
Thank you for the question. We'll turn to the committee.
I will say, I don't think we've come across the word abdication in our process, but we did have the council, we did have the staff from the General Counsel on Finance and Administration with us. There were many questions from the committee, the legislative committee. There was representation that there had been thorough review by the departments of GCFA, which would include the legal department, when it submitted this petition last summer. So we did not receive the text of a legal opinion, but there were questions consistent with your question when we were in discussion with the staff from GCFA.
Thank you. A card in the far back, near the aisle. Yes, that's you. Please move to microphone. Let's try microphone number 8 and see if that will work for us this time.
Thank you, Bishop. This is Charles Boyu, Detroit Conference.
You've already spoken on this matter.
I have a
hope
question.
You have a quick question. Yes?
Is there anything in our Constitution or Book of Discipline that will preclude any agency of the United Methodist Church, if this petition is not approved, from seeking authority to do whatever it wishes from a future General Conference?
Perhaps that is a question for the Judicial Council, but I will say, as to the way you ended your question, in order for a future General Conference to act, because of the process that is required for constitutional amendments, an authorization such as this one must have been considered and approved at a prior General Conference. In order for it to be effective for the 2016 General Conference, it must be approved by this body now, and then, of course, by 2/3 in aggregate of the annual conferences and provisional annual conferences of the United Methodist Church worldwide, which will happen at those sessions during 2013. Because of the process that is set out for constitutional amendment, the only way that it can be applicable for the 2016 General Conference is our approval here in Tampa.
Charles, I will take a risk as the chair and direct you to Judicial Council decisions around the year 1974, which limited the power of the General Council on Ministries for precisely this reason. I don't want to go into detail because it's been a while since I've read them, but that would be the place to look to answer your question. I see somebody with a white card, not the front one, but the back one. Yes, you. Move to microphone number 10, perhaps.
Thank you, Bishop. Emily Allen, Laity, California, Nevada Annual Conference. I would like to be clear which calendar item we are voting on. Some of the speeches in favor referred to possibilities of reallocating funding, which seems to be the following calendar item, not the one we are currently discussing. So I would like to be clear that we are on calendar item 462 and not the following petition.
We are on calendar 462. Thank you for your clarification. Yes, a white card over here. Yes, you've already, no, you haven't spoken on this. My apologies. Come to microphone number 1.
Maxie Dunham, Clergy, Kentucky. I move the previous question.
On this matter? Yes.
On this matter.
That's in order. If you will get out your keypads, please. The motion is to close debate on calendar item 462. We are not yet voting on this calendar item. The motion is to close debate. If you will end debate, vote 1 for yes. If you wish to continue debate, vote 2 for no. Please vote now. You have 5 seconds. The voting is closed. We'll see the results. And you have voted to close debate. We will move to the last word from the committee and then vote on calendar item 462. Byrd?
Brothers and sisters, we are a church of hope. As a church of hope, in order to meet individuals who are not yet in our churches where they are, whether at the local church level, the annual conference, or the general church level, we must be flexible. We must have nimbleness in the way that we make disciples of Jesus Christ to transform the world. This recommendation is brought to you with a unanimous vote from the subcommittee and from the committee itself, after significant conversation among members as well as with staff of general agencies. It is in the interest of the nimbleness and flexibility that would be achieved in the programmatic life of our church to make disciples as a people of hope that we recommend that you adopt this petition.
Petition, calendar item 462 is before you. It is an amendment to paragraph 16 of the Constitution and thus requires a 2/3 vote. Please get out your keypads. If you will support this petition, vote 1 for yes. If you are opposed to this petition, vote 2 for no. Please vote now. You have 5 seconds. The voting is closed. We'll await the results. The petition does not carry because it does not reach the required 2/3 level. We turn now to calendar item 463. Byrd?
Calendar item 463 seeks to insert the identical language in subparagraph 9 of paragraph 16 of the Constitution, relating to the raising and distribution of funds necessary to carry on the work of the church. By the same token, this petition was not a part of any of the restructure proposals that were brought from the church, from the connectional table or other alternative plans for the church. It was brought out of a study of the apportionment system of the United Methodist Church and the need for flexibility and nimbleness in the programmatic life of the church.
This calendar item is before you. I see an orange card over here. Would you like to speak to it? Microphone number 10.
Yoshiro Nakajima, California, Nevada. Thank you, Bird, for all your hard work in our subcommittee. I was in this committee and in this subcommittee that talked about this, and I would like to make it clear that we were not working under the assumption that at least I was not making the assumption that our structure would change when I voted to support this legislation. Now that we have voted to change our structure, I cannot be in support of this. Thank you.
That's a speech against. Is there a speech for? The three of us do not see any cards. I take it you are ready to vote. Bird just spoke a minute ago. Do you have one last word, sir?
I would just add that many of the comments that have been made about not wanting to authorize other groups of the church, not delegating or abdicating authority, seem to come from an operation of fear. The discussion in the subcommittee, the discussion in the committee talked about the need for our church to be a church of hope, to meet the programmatic life of the church and be able to react to the world as we move through a quadrennium, not just on a 4-year basis at a time. We encourage you, we urge you to vote to adopt calendar item 463.
Calendar item 463 is before you. If you will support this petition, would you vote 1 for yes? If you are opposed to it, vote 2. Please vote now. You have 5 seconds. Voting is closed. We'll await the results. And the proposal does not carry because it does not reach the required 2/3. We turn now to a third petition from the Conferences Committee, calendar item 20 on page 2107. Guy Ames, Chair of the Committee.
Thank you, Bishop. General Conference, Guy Ames from Oklahoma, USA. You'll see the petition on page 2107. The original amendment that came the original petition, rather, that came to us is addressing paragraph 602 of the discipline that deals with the equalization between clergy and lay attendance at annual conference. As we know, for every clergy who is at annual conference, we have an equal layperson. On occasion, there are those clergy, especially as this petition is seeking to address, that are incapacitated, retired, and away. The original petition asked for a means for the annual conference to adjust their lay delegates to be able to match those of their clergy delegates. Our committee is asking that that particular petition be amended to read, clergy who voluntarily indicate that they are unable to attend annual conference because of incapacity or advanced age shall not be counted in arriving at the balance between clergy and lay. What this basically means is that an annual conference is given the opportunity when one of their clergy of advanced age or incapacity lets the annual conference know that they are not going to be able to attend annual conference. The annual conference at that point is not required to match with a lay delegate that particular clergy who is announced they're not going to be able to come. We understand that this has come to General Conference because we have some of our annual conferences that provide for the full housing and support of all of their delegates to annual conference, and that was the motivating factor, which is an expense in some of our annual conferences. That's the rationale. Bishop, that's why we bring that.
This matter is before you. Do you wish to speak to it? I see a card by microphone number 7, between 7 and 8. Yes?
Laura Jaquith Bartlett, Oregon, Idaho Annual Conference, clergy delegate to General Conference. I am also a clergy member of Oregon, Idaho, and I serve as the conference secretary for Oregon, Idaho. A point of clarification with the chair of the committee who has presented this petition. I understood you to be speaking about clergy and lay equalization based on attendance at the annual conference session. The discipline currently provides for equalization based on membership in the conference, in the annual conference, not simply attendance at the annual meeting, but membership, which becomes a very different issue.
What is your question, please?
My question is, could the speaker clarify the intent of the committee with the petition? Is it around membership or attendance?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The original petition was entirely around attendance, and our committee tried to strike a balance with that so that in the event that one of those clergy is not able to attend, we might adjust the entire delegation to annual conference around that. As our discipline states right now, and the speaker is correct, our lay and clergy membership is all around membership, not attendance. This just strikes a bit of a balance between the two so that some conferences might be able to adjust.
I see a white card, and the person at the far left of this group over here raising the card, the left-hand person, would you please stand? I did not recognize you, sir. I recognize the person at the far left of the group who was waving a white card.
Asante sana Papa Bishop. Jina yangu ni Pastor Mujinga Kashala.
Can we have a translator, please? Hold steady a minute. Translator at microphone number 10. Okay, go ahead, microphone number 4.
Jina yangu ni Pastor Mujinga Kashala, Sud-Ouest Katanga.
My name is Mujinga Kashala, Sud Katanga Conference.
Shia tushikie kintu interpretation haipite.
We are not able to follow the translation in Swahili.
It is a procedural issue.
Na ekran hii kukaribu yetu haionyeshi.
And even the screen is not showing very well.
Merci.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. I will ask the secretary to initiate inquiries so that we get this fixed. Hold steady for a minute, please. If the person who was just speaking would please stand in place, we will send somebody to you to make sure, thank you, I see you there. We will send somebody to you to make sure that this translation issue is handled. We're wondering if this is a matter about headsets that can be a technological issue.
Asante sana Papa Bishop. Hapa sasa tunashikia mzuri.
Translation, please.
Thank you very much. I'm able to follow everything.
I think we have resolved the problem. We are back on discussion of calendar item 20. Yes, a white card near microphone number 6.
Mike Saikuda, Missouri Conference, United States. I rise to ask a question for clarification. If a clergy person submits an RSVP indicating that they will not be at annual conference, if they later are able to attend, have they surrendered their credential to vote, since there would not be a lay delegate to complement their attendance?
Did you all address that? Did you all discuss that? I'm going to let you, because you had that in your committee.
We did have subcommittee discussion to that effect. The answer that we came up with was that certainly they would not surrender their right to vote. Again, focusing that these provisions are isolated to incapacity and advanced age. We tried several amendments to come up with better terminology, but this is truly persons who on an ongoing basis, late in life, or that have are in a condition that they are incapacitated and not able to attend. It is not for illness, it is not for short-term, it is not for persons in extension ministries in other parts of the world, or that will not be in proximity to the annual conference session. That's not what we're talking about here. They are truly long-term incapacities and inability to attend because of advanced age.
I recognize an orange card at the far back. I think it's a yellow shirt. Mary Lou will be happy. I've gotten 2 right on the colors so far. Microphone number 4.
Bishop, I am Stephen Taylor, South Carolina Conference, USA, clergy. There seems to be undefined terms in this proposal. To the children in my children's church, I am of advanced age. Plus, the bookkeeping would be a headache to any conference secretary to keep up a year in advance of those who would not be on the attendance list. And finally, I think we should vote this down because in every conference I know, laity attend regularly while the clergy come and go, and they're there to get the work done. And therefore, if we reduce their numbers, it's just not going to work well. Thank you.
That's one speech against. Are there other speeches on this matter? I'm trying to rotate around the room. I have a green card down front here. Yes, you, sir. Microphone number 10.
Jim Branscombe, Laity, Virginia Conference. In our conference, we have a large number of retirees, and we allocate the at-large lay delegates to the district. Some of the larger districts spend several $1,000s on per diem to cover seats that are empty in the clergy section. So I speak very strongly on behalf of this that we, what we actually end up with is an uneven vote, because we always end up with more more laity in the session than we do clergy.
All right. I have a white card at the far back on the aisle. Yes. Move to microphone number 8, please.
Thank you, Bishop. I have a question. I am Lori Dahlman from West Michigan Conference in the USA Laity. I'm wondering if there should be a deadline included in this so that the laity will know how many people...
You raised a white card, ma'am. Is this a speech or
No,
an amendment or...
I'm wondering if there should be a deadline
I
added.
understand you're wondering. I'm asking if you will either make a motion or ask a question.
Yes, sir. Could a deadline be added so the laity will know how many to elect to attend annual conference?
Thank you. That's a question to the maker.
This will be left up to every annual conference, as we already currently do. Any deadlines with regards to registration at annual conference is really a unique part of every annual conference, and this does not change any of that practice as we currently have it.
Thank you. I see an orange card down here at the front. Yes, you. Microphone number 2.
Bishop, I'm Beverly Maddox from the Alabama West Florida Conference, USA. I go to a small membership church and have a retired pastor who some of you would consider an advanced age. If he chose not to go to annual conference, then my delegate, who is only one, our church would not be represented at annual conference. So I'm speaking against this motion. I think every church needs representation.
Thank you. Green card at the back. Yes, you're standing. Go ahead and go to a microphone, please. Yes, you. Either way. Microphone number 11, it looks like.
Carlos Cal Jr. from the Rizal, Philippines Annual Conference, Laity. Bishop and members of this conference, the petition that seeks to rationalize the equalization process in the annual conferences, I believe, passes the tests both of reasonableness and practicality, and so it must be supported by this conference.
We've had 2 speeches for and 2 speeches against at this point. I see a white card down front. Yes. Microphone number 9.
Thank you, Bishop. Arnetta Beverly, Western North Carolina. If a clergy person is of advanced age or incapacitated, are they still not considered members of the conference and therefore we need laity to offset?
Question for the maker of the motion.
They are, if they are an elder who is in retired connection or a member of the annual conference, that does not change. What we're suggesting is if that person, that retired elder, or that person who cannot come to annual conference contacts the conference secretary and says, I'm not coming, then the conference secretary does not have to match that with a layperson. As it stands now, we are required to do that because that retired elder is one of our members of the annual conference.
All right, I recognize a green card at the back near the aisle. Yes. Microphone number 8.
understand that this item is allowing us to not have to add so many at-large lay members. It's not about saying that there won't be a lay person from each local church or charge. Our annual conference has to supply dozens upon dozens of lay members to annual conference to equalize dozens and dozens of retired clergy who do not attend. I speak in support of this item.
I see an orange card down front. Yes, you, sir. Go to a microphone. Microphone number 6.
Tracy Bass, clergy, Eastern Pennsylvania Conference, USA. Also the conference secretary. I was really trying to be discriminating in deciding when I would speak, but I'm forced to speak on this issue. This is another petition presented without considering, in my opinion, its practicality. In practice, these numbers are due far in advance of annual conference. When will the clergy know of their inability or incapacity? Moreover, when will they let us know of their inability or incapacity? The discipline provides for the annual conference to develop its own formula. Please let us do that.
You've had now 3 speeches for and 3 speeches against. I'm going to turn to the committee for a last word and then put this to a vote.
I think this has been a good education for us on the membership and attendance factors of our annual conferences. Some of our conferences have a preponderance of retired persons, pastors who are unable to attend. I believe that's how that's come to us. Bishop, it's before us as presented.
All right, I think the body is ready to vote. If you will support this petition, calendar item 20, vote 1 for yes. If you are opposed, vote 2 for no. Vote now. You have 5 seconds. The vote is closed. We'll wait for the results. You have approved the petition.
Thank you, Bishop.
Thank you to the Committee on Conference Leadership. Thank you very much. We turn now to David Bard and Ministry and Higher Education, calendar item 370, found on page 2365. David? Yes, point of order. Microphone number 6, what's your point of order?
Jeff Greenway, West Ohio Clergy. Bishop, my understanding on the previous motion was that it was a constitutional amendment. And if that's the case, it demanded 2/3 majority.
That's incorrect. We were amending paragraph 602. It is not a constitutional amendment.
Thank you.
Thank you. David?
Thank you, David Bard, Clergy Delegate, Minnesota, United States. We are indeed looking at calendar item 370, found on the DCA, page 2365, also found on ADCA, page 1445. This was a petition about the complaint process, asking that a pool of certified advocates be formed in each annual conference. The subcommittee looked at it and amended it, and to share with you the subcommittee's amendment and their rationale for it, I'd like to invite Laura Merrill from the Southwest Texas Conference, who chaired that subcommittee, to speak to you.
Thank you. We did look at this petition and did amend it, as you see in your DCA. We amended it to recommend against the creation of this pool mainly to try to keep from developing yet one more layer of, for lack of a better word, bureaucracy perhaps in the conference structure. We also inserted the language referring people to the GCFNA Administrative and Judicial Procedures Handbook, which, according to the experience around the table, is a little-known resource that does outline the process for complaints. Our group believes that it is exactly in these kinds of situations that folks go to the discipline, and that to have that official resource printed in the discipline would be the best path. The resource does note that in the complaint process, folks do have the opportunity to have a person accompany them to hearings, or what, I'm sorry if that's not the correct term. It would not, however, create a whole trained pool of certified advocates. So that seemed the best course and the most practical course in the opinion of the subcommittee.
Thank you. With that change, this petition was approved by a vote of 71-0. It was on the consent calendar and was removed. It is before the body.
All right, calendar item 370 is before you. Does anybody wish to speak to it? I see nobody moving to a microphone. Oh, I'm sorry, white card here. Nobody moving to a microphone. That was the way we do it in Kansas. I see nobody waving a card. That's the proper language. Microphone number 10.
John Bishop, Greater New Jersey. The legal staff of GCFA is very uncomfortable with including this reference in the discipline because they feel that this document is not authoritative, that the only authority is the Judicial Council, and that this should not be given the weight of a binding authority. And if you'd like more information, then we should ask someone from GCFA Legal to speak to this.
You raised a white card, but I'm treating that as a speech against the motion. Is there a speech for it? I see nobody raising a card. A white card over here, yes. Microphone number 2.
Bishop, I'm Jay Brim, lay delegate from Southwest Texas, USA. I rise to make a motion to refer.
Very well.
I move that we refer this petition to GCFA.
Is there a second? I hear a second. You may speak to it.
I believe it's important that we allow GCFA to ensure that we have a correct procedure here. If they're uncomfortable with using their manual in this fashion, let's let them send it back to us with an appropriate reference, whether that particular manual. This is an extremely important process in all of our annual conferences.
That's one speech in favor of referral. Does anybody else wish to speak to the motion to refer? A white card in the far back on the aisle. Yes. Move to microphone number 8, please.
Lonnie Chafin, Northern Illinois Conference. Bishop, can we ask Dan Guerra, the attorney of GCFA, the nature of their concerns?
Okay. Is there a representative from GCFA who can speak to the legal concerns about the reference to this document? I do not see anybody able to answer your question, Lonnie. I'm sorry. A white card over here. Microphone number 6.
Tim Briss from New York Annual Conference. Clergy, I would like to amend the motion to refer.
That's in order.
I would like to amend it to direct GCFA to report back to us about this tomorrow morning.
Okay, so that in a sense this is a motion to table until tomorrow morning.
Well, seeing as they are not in the House now.
Well, I understand that. And so that you would be... I see, there's a hand waving there. Is that somebody who is from GCFA can answer to this question? Yes, move to microphone number 4, please. I take it you're withdrawing your motion to table. Microphone number 4.
My name is Rick Redberg. I'm General Counsel at GCFA. The handbook that's referred to in the amendment is simply a shorthand summary of what the discipline provides. On the cover page of that document, we included a disclaimer by which we advise people to always refer to the provisions in the Book of Discipline. And we still think that's the best advice. We would prefer not to have this publication hardwired into the Book of Discipline.
Thank you for that answer, Rick. The motion before you is the motion to refer this whole petition to GCFA. Does anybody wish to speak to it? I do not see anybody with a card up. Get out your voting pads. The motion is to refer. If you will vote to refer this petition to GCFA, vote 1 for yes. If you're opposed to referral, vote 2 for no. Excuse me, hold the vote. I should have turned to the committee chair. Do you wish to have a final word, David?
No.
We are moving toward a vote. I've outlined the options: 1 for yes, for referral, 2 no. Vote now. 5 seconds. The voting is closed. We'll await the results. You have voted to refer. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
We turn now to Jessica Vargo for the Financial Administration and another calendar item, 245. It is on page 2364 of your DCA, 2364.
Bishop, because I know this is going to be a very easy item, I would like a moment of privilege to thank the Legislative Committee leadership.
You certainly have that moment. We owe you and the other committee leaders our thanks. Go ahead.
Thank you. The Finance and Administrative Legislative Committee was blessed to have effective leaders, and I would like to thank and affirm them at this time. Our Vice Chair was Jim Berner from West Virginia. Our Secretary, who did an excellent job, my friend from Liberia, Olander Boyce. Our 4 subcommittee chairs, Gary George from East Ohio, Lonnie Chafin from Northern Illinois, Regina Cancino from the Northwest Mindanao, Philippines. Hopefully I didn't totally mess that up. And last but not least, from Eastern Pennsylvania, Mary White. I want to thank them for their efforts and their hard work. Also, I want to thank the entire Legislative Committee for their diligence that allowed us to get through all of our work. Thank you. The calendar item that we are dealing with, as has already been mentioned, is calendar item 245, Fund Budgets. The full text can be found in your advanced DCA on page 657. It's petition number 20364. This petition originated from the General Counsel on Finance and Administration. It is to delete paragraphs 806.1b and 806.1c, and it's being replaced by the language that you see on that page. Very simply, this is to be more concise, to get rid of duplicate language. This particular petition was unanimously approved. It is before you.
The petition is before you. The chair has given the explanation. I am depending upon my colleagues behind me, but we see no cards. I believe you're ready to vote. It is petition 245. If you will support this petition, vote 1 for yes. If you are opposed to it, vote 2 for no. Vote now. Five seconds. The voting is closed. We'll wait the results. And you have approved this petition. Thank you, Jessica. We turn now to Ellen Alston with a calendar item 372 on page 2365 from the Superintendency Committee.
Bishop, delegates, and friends, the Superintendency Committee has before you 2 items which have been removed from their consent calendar. To introduce the first one, I want to introduce to you our very capable Vice Chair of the committee, Joseph Mulongo, clergy delegate from the North Katanga Conference.
Thank you. The petition as amended was passed unanimously. We present it to you. Thank you.
The calendar item is 372. It is before you. I see a white card over here. Microphone number 2. I'm sorry, Bird.
Bird Bonner, lay delegate from Southwest Texas. I rise to offer an amendment, if it's in order.
It is. Go ahead.
Looking at the language that is added on page 2365 of the DCA, page 2365 of the DCA, starting at the bottom of the first column and continuing to the top 3 lines of the second column, my amendment is as follows. At the conclusion of that sentence, to add in parentheses, effective on January 1, 2013. In parentheses, effective on January 1, 2013. If there's a second, I'd like to speak to it.
Do I hear a second?
The added language contained in the Daily Christian Advocate that was added in committee refers to and applies solely to bishops in the central conferences. In our global church, we are increasingly present as the United Methodist Church in countries with very delicate civil balance of power. It is very important that as the church works with state and national governments, that episcopal leadership and civil leadership build relationships of trust that are often taking several years to build. By inserting this retirement age in the central conferences now for the first time, we might unwittingly risk the loss of some of that trust and credibility that has been built and earned by our bishops on the ground in countries around the world. In order for us not to take that risk, we need to make this provision effective at the end of this calendar year, after the central conferences have elected bishops.
Your amendment is clear. It is a proposal to add the words in parentheses, effective January 1, 2013, at the close of the additional language in what the committee is already amending. The amendment is before you. I see an orange card at the back. Yes, you're standing at the far back. That's correct. You're moving to microphone number 8.
Bishop,
Yes.
Jacques Mangudi from Central Congo. Am I in order to propose an amendment to this amendment?
Yes, you are.
I propose an amendment to this amendment to read that it should be in imperative this petition to take effect 2016-2016. If I have a second, I would like to speak to.
Is there a second? Okay.
Bishop, the Congo Central Conference is very grateful to the action of this General Conference to create a new Episcopal area in the Central Congo Episcopal area. By this action, our Congo Central Conference will have 4 bishops. We need a smooth transition change in organizing the new vast Episcopal area. Calling to this immediate action, starting the General Conference at the end of the General Conference of 2012, will lead, instead of having at least 2 old pastors, bishops, we will have 3 new bishops and just 1 previous bishop, and that will be very hard for a smooth transition. In our central conferences, the bishop is not only bishop of the church, but he is also legal representative of the church to the state. So I would like to vote against this, so that against this amendment to take it to 2016. Thank you.
Thank you. What is before you now is the amendment to the amendment, which substitutes the year 2016. Does anybody wish to speak to that?
Where?
Green card over here by microphone number 3. Yes, you, please. Yes, you wish to speak to this amendment? To the amendment. Moving to microphone number 2.
Traduction.
We will need translation, I think. The translator's at microphone 10. Go ahead, microphone number 2.
Allez-y.
Révérend Chrysostome Tchijika, pasteur de la conférence du Sud Congo.
Reverend Chrysostome Kishika from South Congo Annual Conference.
Merci, évêque.
Thank you, Bishop.
Je viens de suivre ce que mon confrère vient de présenter venant de la conférence annuelle du Congo central.
I've followed what my brother has just said with respect to the annual conference of South Congo.
Je voulais continuer dans la même logique.
I wanted to follow in that same vein.
Chez nous en Afrique, l'évêque c'est un chef, pas seulement de l'Église, mais il a aussi d'autres responsabilités vis-à-vis de l'État.
In Africa, a bishop is a leader not just of the church, but also has responsibilities with respect to the state.
Je ne peux pas aussi remercier davantage comme mon confrère vient de remercier, d'ailleurs je l'ai dit aussi.
I cannot thank you more than my brother has already done.
Je voulais seulement m'opposer à l'amendement tel qu'il a été proposé.
I wanted to propose an amendment to the amendment as it was suggested.
Si cela peut être en application qu'à partir de 2016.
With respect to its application as of 2016.
Comme nous travaillons pour 4 ans,
When we work for 4 years,
en 2016, ça pourra être bien et ça aidera beaucoup l'Église en Afrique.
in 2016, that will be very good. It will be very helpful to the church.
Je demande donc de refuser de voter pour l'amendement tel qu'il a été proposé.
So I ask that we refuse to vote for the amendment as proposed.
Merci.
Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. We are looking at 2 speeches for this amendment to the amendment and none against. I see no cards up. I think you're ready to vote on the amendment to the amendment. Pull out your keypads. The amendment to the amendment is to substitute the year 2016 in the amendment. If you support this, vote 1. If you're opposed, vote 2. Vote now. You have 5 seconds. Voting is closed. We'll await the results. You have amended it. What is before you now is the proposed amendment adding the words effective January 1, 2016 in parentheses at the close of the committee's amendment. I see no cards. I think you're ready to vote. Pull out your keypads again. The question is, will you amend the petition with this effective date of January 1, 2016? If you support the amendment, vote 1 for yes. If you are opposed, vote 2 for no. Vote now. You have 5 seconds. Voting is closed. The amendment has been approved. What's now before you is the petition as a whole. As amended, I see a white card back there to my left, your right. Yes, that's you. You're standing. Microphone number 4.
Bishop Michael Dominic, Indiana Conference Clergy. I have a question that may only be editorial, but I want to be clear. The amendment that comes from the committee says that there is a new 1B, but it is not clear to me whether it replaces the 1B in the original petition or whether 1B in the original petition that deals with pension distribution should now be a 1C. Could that be clarified, please?
He just said it becomes a new 1C.
Thank you for asking for that clarification. We believe it would become a new 1C.
Very well. The chair has clarified the committee's intent. I see no cards. You're ready to vote. What is before you is calendar item 372 as amended, both with amendments from the committee and then amended on the floor. If you will support this petition, vote 1. If you're opposed to this position, vote 2. Vote now. The voting is closed. We'll await the results. You have approved this petition. Friends, that brings to an end our business. The Secretary has a decision from the Judicial Council to read, as well as some other announcements. Before I turn to Secretary Reist, I want to thank the 2 bishops behind me. I did not introduce them earlier. I want to acknowledge that whatever good I have been able to do as a bishop has usually come in community and collegiality with my colleagues in my College of Bishops and in the Council. And today, in the midst of this difficult day, I have been very grateful for the support of John Scholl from the Baltimore, Washington area, and Greg Palmer from the Illinois Great Rivers area. They have been huge help to me today and in many other ways as well. So please, thank you, both of you, for my help. We turn now to Secretary Reist.
I have received decision number 1208 from the Judicial Council, and I'm only going to read for you the decision. That is the summary of the decision at the end. The parts of GCFA report number 8 in item 5 and 6 that authorize the General Counsel in Finance and Administration to negotiate apportionments with the Rio Grande Annual Conference, the Alaska Missionary Conference, the Redbird Missionary Conference, the Oklahoma Indian Missionary Conference, and the annual conferences of the Central Conferences, and the parts of the Legislative Committee amendment to the same report in item 2 that establish a jurisdictional apportionment for the Episcopal Fund are unconstitutional, violating paragraphs 27 and 45. If anyone wants to see that, you can come forward immediately after the dismissal and I'll let you look at it, but I can't let you take it. I have 3 announcements. The College of Bishops of the Africa Central Conference, the Africa Central Conference officers, and all heads of delegations of Africa Central Conference annual conferences are kindly requested to meet at the stage stairs at 6 p.m. for urgent business. The College of Bishops of the Africa Central Conference, the Africa Central Conference officers, and all heads of delegations of Africa Central Conference annual conferences are kindly requested to meet at the stage stairs at 6 p.m. for urgent business. Now, this announcement starts this way. I promise this is the last announcement from the women of Congo. But they do want to remind you that they have things on display at Cokesbury, and today is the last day to purchase their gift items from the Congo. I've also been asked to announce that there will be a Spanish language prayer service tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. in room 22. All are invited, but the service will be done in Spanish. So if you are not able to understand Spanish, you can still participate, but it will be in Spanish. Spanish language prayer service tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. in room 22. And the last, this general conference is being served by 138 volunteer marshals and pages. Marshals serve in the visitor and reserved seating galleries, assisting guests and checking credentials to make sure that only authorized persons are admitted to the bar of the plenary sessions or that of legislative committees. Pages assist delegates, secretarial staff, bishops, and members of the Judicial Council, distributing approved materials and delivering printed information. These volunteers from across the church are responsible for making their own travel and housing arrangements and serve at their own expense. We are invited to contribute to an offering, the proceeds from which will be divided among marshals and pages to help defray their expenses. At the 2008 General Conference, each volunteer who served throughout the conference received $85 as his share of the offering. The persons who will be at the exits to receive your offering are alumni of the Marshall and Page ranks. Thank you for your generosity. This announcement comes from Mark Wharf, who is the head of the Marshalls and Pages.
Now, Jerry, I'm writing a check for that. I assume if I make it out to GCFA, it'll get to the right place.
You know, if you make it out to GCFA, they'll actually tear the check in half. No, they'll actually cash the check and divide the money up. I would personally point out that we all benefit from the pages and marshals. And, you know, give them a hand of applause.
Would you join with me in a spirit of prayer? Almighty God, you have blessed this church. You have given us sound doctrine, a strong connection, and a sense of mission to transform the world. We thank you for the blessings we have received and for the presence of your Holy Spirit in our midst today. Help us to be truly faithful and fruitful. Help us to love each other in all that we think and say and do, and bless us now as we go forth. Amen. We reconvene at 7:30. We're adjourned until then.